everyone, welcome! I'm super excited today. We haven't done one of these videos in like 3 years. No, wait, did I do one? No, I didn't. 3 years, guys! It's been 3 years since I've actually talked about my favorite and least favorite. So, normally these types of videos are like my top 10 books, but guys, I literally read 10 books this year. And I was like, well, maybe I could just pick top 5. Because honestly, like a lot of these books were hit or miss for me, and I'll explain why later. So, I think though, instead of going through and saying like, here are my top books, I'm just gonna kind of just rate all the books I read this year. And some of them are good, some of them are bad. And guys, I also want to let you know that this is purely just what I think of the books, because I know I have some books on here that I'm gonna give like very low scores that everyone loved, and I'll explain why I didn't like it. But this is just how I personally felt. Does not necessarily mean it's a bad book. So if you were thinking about reading it, I still encourage you to go read it. Just this is kind of how I felt about them. First book I read, let's start with a miss, okay? It was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I read It Ends With Us, guys, like way back in 2016. It was a while. It was a long time ago. So I first didn't really remember the books. I actually went online and I think it was like a Cliff Note thing or something. It was something, but I read like the whole like premise online, and then I was like, okay, it came back to me. So I read this book, guys. I did not like this book. Don't get me wrong, I finished it in like 3 days. It kept my attention enough, but it was never, oh, I just love this book, because nothing happened in this book. Absolutely at all. Nothing happened. I don't know. I know a lot of people love it. I didn't. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10 stars. I know that's kind of rough, but it was mediocre, okay? It was half-half. Like, it wasn't so terrible, but it also, I didn't find it good. Again, I know a lot of people love this book. This is just my opinion. A lot of it too is, if I'm being completely honest, like, I don't really like to read a lot of contemporary reads, and it has to have something that really draws me into it to begin with. So it's a 3 out of 10 for me, but like I said, guys, it's not a bad book. You might actually enjoy it, but for me, I just felt like not much happened in the book, and it was just very repetitive after a while. And that's just my opinion, and sorry. Next book, guys, and this is a classic, and my friend actually got me into this book. You probably will already know. If you watch my past videos, you probably already know what I'm talking about. But anyways, she came over one day, we watched the TV series, and I was like, I'm gonna read the book. Kind of wish I would have just watched the TV series then read the book, because once I read the book, it kind of ruined the TV series for me. But anyways, guys, that is Anne of Green Gables. Guys, I actually loved this book. I didn't know if I like it, because, you know, it's a children's book. It's a much older book. I didn't think I was gonna like it, guys. I loved it. It was just such a fun, wholesome read. It was kind of one of those like low stake books where you're like, I could just read this and not have to worry about it in life. And honestly, it was also a good book, because like I said, it took me a few months to read it, but like I said, it wasn't because it wasn't good. It was because it takes me a while. I pick up books, I put them down. I'm very all over the place when it comes to books, but it was nice with this book because I could do that without being like, okay, wait, what did I read beforehand? One chapter broke my heart, but other than that, guys, I loved this book. I would honestly give this book maybe a 6.5 out of 10. I like the book, okay? I like to save my 9 and 10s for like really, really big books. So this is actually a really good rating. Next book, guys, could not put this book down. I loved it, loved it, loved it. I think I did though like one of her other books a little bit more, but it was so good, guys. And that is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Guys, this is like what I'm talking about. I need to have a book that makes me keep wanting to read it. That I'm like, ooh, I don't know how this is gonna end. I kind of predicted a little bit with this one, but it wasn't that bad of prediction. But guys, one thing I love about her books, and I've seen other authors do it, and I love it when they do it, is when you have perspectives of the past and perspectives of the present. You kind of know what happened in the past based off of you being the reader, but the person in the present is trying to figure out. And guys, I love it. It's a ghost story. It's about a haunted motel. It was so good. I kept reading it, and I just wanted to keep reading it, guys, and I loved it. I love reading like these books in the summer. I don't know why. Never the fall, but the summer, and I read this on vacation, and it was so good. I highly recommend it if you're just looking for a creepy ghost story book, but it's not like too scary. I highly recommend this book, guys, and I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. Next up, guys, this was more a nostalgia trip than anything, and that is The Blood of Olympus. So I never finished the series. I stopped at House of Hades in high school, and I just never picked it up again, mostly because I'm not a Heroes of Olympus fan. I like the first book, I like the second book, but then when like all the cast came together in Mark of Athena, I could not read it. I can't do dual perspective books. I might be able to tolerate 2, but any more than that, I just cannot do. And so that's kind of what made me lose the series. But then back in 2022, like in January, I picked them back up. I audiobooked them, and guys, they work really well as an audiobook. And that's why I've told people who told me they haven't been able to finish the series, I'm like, just listen to the audiobooks. And so I listened to the audiobooks, guys, but I never got to Blood of Olympus. And I think it was just because I was like, it's the last book. I want to savor it. And I just never picked it up. And so I picked it up this year, guys, and it was good, but I probably will only give it 6 out of 10 stars. But yeah, I'm glad I finished the series out. Next book, guys, I read in this one also I'm gonna get so much controversy over, but it wasn't a bad book. I actually really liked the book, but I'll tell you why I'm going to read it like I did. Happy Place by Emily Henry. One thing I love about Emily Henry's books is her premises are so interesting, and she does such a great job at writing them. In this book, we have two characters. They're part of this huge group of friends, and especially relatable as you get older and, like, you know, you have those friends, but you don't get to see each other all the time because, you know, you're all busy. And so each summer they go to this cottage for a trip, and this one person who she's with, who's part of her friend group, it was kind of like a situation where they're engaged and they got broken up, but they don't want their friends to know, so they pretend they're together still. It was a fun book. I will only give it, though, a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for me is just average. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And the reason why is that, like I said, it's a well-written book. I liked reading it. I think I read it in about a week. But for me, it wasn't like the, oh my goodness, I just want to read this again type book. Like I said, I am not a contemporary reader. And the reason why is because, like, a lot of these books, you know how they're going to end at the end. It's like the Hallmark movies. You know how it's going to end in the end. And so for me, there was never that, why should I keep reading this? But I did enjoy it. It was very entertaining. So 5.5, I don't know. I enjoyed the book, but it wasn't like, I'll say like, oh my gosh, I just gotta talk about it with people. But I still enjoyed this book. Beach Read is still my favorite of hers. That one was like a 10 out of 10 for me. 9 out of 10, I should say. It was a 9 out of 10 for me. But this one, I mean, I don't know. Let's just say 6 out of 10 actually. It was a fun book. Next book, guys. To me, this was like the biggest disappointment book. And I don't know if anybody else felt this, but that is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I don't know if because we waited 2 years for this book, I just built it up in my mind. But Claire had the best cliffhanger in Chain of Iron, and so then when we get to this book, I like it how it did just kind of start up where the last one left off. I did appreciate that, but then it was like, okay, quick, wrapped up, no consequences, move on in life. I love the cast of characters. I think besides like Will, Tessa, and Jem, like these are like my next favorite characters. I love the setup of the story of James and Lucy's grandfather and basically him trying to overrun London and everything. Like, I thought that was just so interesting, but in my personal opinion, I feel like this happens with a lot of Claire's books, and she builds up these great storylines, and then in the third book she focuses more on the relationship aspects and the storyline aspect, and that's just kind of what killed it for me. This book is huge. It's like almost 700 pages, and I want to show you. I mean, I'm just guesstimating here. Basically, this was like the entire ending, just these few pages, and it was very wrap it up in a neat little bow, call it a day. There was a random death that made no sense whatsoever, and then the whole miscommunication, guys, just really frustrated me because it was just almost out of nowhere. I don't know. I was just so angry with some of the choices in this book because I'm like, this is the last book and I wanted more from it. And I don't know. I have a whole book talk, guys, about this. Go watch it. I talk more about this, but definitely was really disappointed in this. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to even give it 5 stars. Like, I enjoyed the characters, and if it wasn't for the characters, I probably would never have finished it. So I'm going to honestly give it a 4 out of 10 stars. I enjoyed the characters, and that's what kept me reading. If I'm going to grade it on plot alone, it was 4 out of 10 for me. It was not my favorite. I was actually kind of disappointed this was the last book. And like, normally, you know, when you finish a series, you have that sense of closure and contentment. You're like, okay, yeah, it's done now. This, I felt like I'm waiting for another book. That's just kind of how it ended. So again, 4 out of 10. Next book, guys, this was such a nostalgia trip. I wasn't even going to read it, but then it had really good reviews, and I was like, you know what? 13-year-old Stephanie would have wanted you to read this book. And that was Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Chalice of the Gods. So this one, I gotta admit, I gotta rate it on nostalgia alone. If I rated it on basically storyline alone, it probably would be kind of low, but again, it's written for middle schoolers, not for mid-20-year-olds. So obviously there was that kiddish factor. Now, would I say I would recommend this to someone who's never read the Percy Jackson series? No. But as someone who grew up with the Percy Jackson series, who loves the Percy Jackson series, yes, read this book. It was wonderful. I definitely felt the old Percy Jackson vibes, which was amazing, because you know how sometimes when authors revisit characters from things they wrote years and years ago and it just feels different? This one did not. This one just felt like I was back in the world. Like, it was actually such a fun book to read. I enjoyed it. Nostalgia factor alone, 7 out of 10. Because like I said, we're going for nostalgia. I read these books like 13 years ago, guys. It's been a while, and so maybe you want to go back and reread the original series again. I like this book. Next book, guys, and this one was good. I like this one. But guys, I love this book. It's actually kind of like a retelling of Rebecca, but it was so good. The ending, guys, the ending, as a reader, the ending was amazing. as the person who likes happily ever after, the ending was not amazing. And I know that kind of contradicts why I don't like contemporary reads, but this one I didn't know how it was really gonna end. I had ideas, but I didn't really know. And I was just like, wait, what? That's how it ends? And I kind of looked for an epilogue, and there's not. I looked for a second book, there's not. So the ending was a little disappointing, but it wasn't because it was disappointing because it was a bad written book. It was just because a ship I shipped did not sail. Let's just say that. But this book was fun. I give this an 8 out of 10. It was such a fun book. Maybe 8.5 out of 10 actually. Next book, guys, is another Emily Henry book, Book Lovers. Guys, I actually picked this up last year and I never finished it, and so I picked up this year. This one was a fun book. This was a fun book. I would give this one probably, again, 5 out of 10. Like I said, it wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it, but didn't have that. I just need to keep reading it, page turner. So maybe 6 out of 10. I don't know, 5 or 6 out of 10 I would say. But it's still a fun book, guys. I love her books. She's such a great writer. She just like really knows how to write these types of books, and I love it. And she doesn't make them feel forced either, and that's one thing that's really great about her book. Next book, guys, A Court of Silver Flame. So many mixed feelings. I actually audiobooked this book. I couldn't read it. I just audiobooked it. But like I said, because it was huge, and just with my reading pattern lately, this needs to be audiobook. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a nice go back to the series. I love the scenes with, I know he's called Rhysand, but literally I spent like 3-4 years pronouncing Rhysand, so that's just where it is now in my mind. And Feyre scenes, like I love that. There was one part where Rhysand and Feyre had this deal thing, and I was not okay with it because I was like, this is the most stupidest thing you could do, but we're not going to talk about that because I'm not spoiling things. It was just fun. I think it also gave a lot of insight into Nesta's character, because I think in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, like she's very standoffish, like you kind of hate her a little bit, but then this book kind of explained more on who she is. And guys, it was a fun book. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10. And then finally, guys, the last book. I loved this book, and if you want to hear more thoughts about it, I actually have a whole video on it, and that is The Circus Train. Guys, I loved this book. It was so good. It's a historical fiction. This book I read in 2 days. This was also one of those books where I forgot how much I love to read and how much I hadn't even read a book where I couldn't put it down in so long. The middle and like the ending, I kind of was like, I wish it was done a little differently, but guys, it was still such a good book. I love this book. It's like one of my favorite books. Honestly, I kind of want to just reread it. So honestly, I give this a 9.5, maybe 10 stars out of 10. It was just so good. Anyways, guys, that's all the books I read this year. The good, the bad, the meh. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!